Me welcome everyone and call the meeting of the August 9th meeting of the Winston-Salem County Utilities Commission to order. We'll begin by calling the roll. And Ms. Glenn, could you call the roll, please?
Well, good afternoon, commissioners. I'll start with Mr. Tuttle, Chairman Tuttle.
Present.
Vice Chairman Wesley Curtis.
Present.
Commissioner Harold Day.
Present.
Commissioner Tom Griffin.
Present.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan.
Present.
Commissioner Dwayne Long.
Present.
Commissioner Chris Parker.
Present.
Commissioner Charles Wilson.
Present.
And Commissioner Alan Younger.
Here, present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. I do not have any chair comments. I'll turn it over to, other than just to say I regret that we're not in person, and who knows when we will be. We're taking it month by month, but so we're back to our new normal, meeting virtually. Courtney, good morning, good afternoon.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Commission. Yes, as Mr. Tuttle said, we had planned to be in person, but unfortunately can't be. So before I share my screen, I am going to introduce who's on the call from staff. So myself, Utilities Director, Damon Duquesne, Assistant City Manager, Patrice Glenn, Senior Administrative Assistant, Mike Quivisto, Deputy Director, Jan McHarg, Assistant Director of Solid Waste, Michael Stover, Assistant Director of Operations, Shane Chu Huffman, Capital Projects Engineer, Todd Lewis, Senior Civil Engineer, Gail Kettler, Public Information Officer, Kelly Latham, Deputy Financial Officer, Jerry Bates, Purchasing Director, Kirk Bjorling, Real Estate Administrator, Jakira Westbrook, Office of Business Inclusion and Advancement, Heather Curry, Budget Office, Camille French is with us today. She's doing a presentation. She's an assistant city attorney with HR. And Jerry Contos is also with us today, filling in for Marilena, who is out of the country. So Jerry is with us from the city attorney's office. So I think I covered everybody. And with that, I will go ahead and share my screen.
So Courtney, I see Mr. Patterson. Do we have any other visitors besides Mr. Patterson?
Thank you for that. So yes, Mr. Patterson is with us as well, and I don't think we have anyone else.
And Gail, I failed to tell you to start recording, but I hope you knew that. Sorry.
Okay, let's see. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. I'm gonna share, okay. So our normal agenda for the meeting, go over a few announcements. Then, as I mentioned, Ms. French will go over an ethics policy refresher for the commission. We'll have our water and wastewater updates, then solid waste updates, financial updates, agenda items, and then our CIP update. So the ERAP application lab continues at Forsyth County Department of Social Services. The ERAP is our emergency rental assistance program. We're also trying to increase efforts to promote ERAP and RUMA, which is rent utility mortgage assistance. And Mike Quivisto will go over later on that we are seeing an uptick in our delinquent account balances and number of accounts that are delinquent. So we're really trying to promote these programs. There's a lot of money out there, federal money, just at different levels that is not being utilized. So we just need to make sure that those that are in need of financial assistance knows that it's out there in the process to take advantage of it. Our COVID update, the all city facilities as of 2 Fridays ago, July 30th, employees and visitors have to wear masks. So that is happening again. And then, you know, the COVID situation is just fluid. So we're just taking each day by day to see what we need to do to protect our employees and staff and what efforts we need to make. So as far as future meetings, we'll just each month we'll decide how we want to handle it. I don't, at this point, in my opinion, of course, things can change. I don't know that we'll be able to be back in person before the end of the year, but we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. So just a heads up that we will have an October Finance Committee meeting, a special meeting that we will go over our initial cost of service with our initial cost of service study with Reftelis. This is one of our key work items this year that we'll be doing. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then pull up Camille's presentation. Okay. Camille, can you see that? Are you good?
I am good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Well, good morning, afternoon, I guess I should say, to you all. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come and address you this afternoon. It won't be very long, as Courtney indicated. It will be a brief refresher for you all about our ethics policy. Again, my name is Camille French, and I'm an assistant city attorney for the city of Winston-Salem, and I serve the Human Resources Department, and I also serve as the city's ethics officer. And I just wanted to provide a brief overview regarding ethics and the expectations that we have surrounding this area. And today, I'm really here to talk more about the don'ts than the do's when it comes to ethics and the appropriate conduct that we will have. So Courtney, if you could advance to the next slide. So the question, one of the first questions is, why did the City Council create the ethics policy? And who does it apply to? And one of the first things I thought I'd do was go into a bit of definition of what ethics actually is. And it's defined simply as the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Our current policy is housed in the employee handbook on page 80, and it outlines these expectations in great detail and in too much detail for me to go into with you on today. However, it does indicate that it covers all City of Winston-Salem employees and representatives, which includes our council members and our commission and board members. And if you'll advance to the next slide, you'll see what the purpose of the policy was meant to do. These are the traits and expectations that are directly aligned with our city's mission, vision, and values. As you can see in that first bullet, fostering high standards of integrity, truthfulness, honesty, and fairness, preventing decisions affected by undue influence or conflicts of interest. And the last one, promoting and strengthening the public's confidence in city government. That's important. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Everybody come through. Okay. Want to ensure that we continue to build goodwill and foster a sense of confidence when we are conducting our daily business, going about our daily business for the city. Next slide, please. So this slide just kind of gives us an indication of what the full stop is, right? The city representatives are expected to observe and follow high ethical and moral standards in the performance of their public service. And in preparation for today, I just did a little bit of research on the history of the Utilities Commission and kind of how it came about and its goals and its purpose. And if you think of a lot of what the Utilities Commission does and utilities in general, it is definitely public-facing work. All of the services that are provided for the citizens. And in that regard, anyone is operating on behalf of the city is expected to observe these high moral standards to make sure that we are carrying out those services in a fair and ethical manner. Next slide, please. So when we start talking about prohibited conduct, what we're looking at is making sure that there are no conflicts of interest, that there is nothing that is being done or said, or there is no appearance of impropriety when it comes to business dealings on behalf of the Utilities Commission and the activities that will be done on behalf of the city. Next slide. So this does include gifts, right? Favors and gratuities. And when we start talking about gifts, we are definitely talking about money, of course, gift cards, food, beverages, any promises of loans, services, or entertainment. And so I wanted to take a minute to just unpack that a little bit, right? So when we start talking about gift cards, you know, a lot of times one of the easiest ways for people to show their appreciation is to just say, hey, I'm just going to shoot a gift card over to you for thank you for your service. Thank you for the business that you've done for us here as we've kind of got our business going moving forward. So generally, we tell people that a gift card is not an acceptable gift to give to anyone, just simply because of the appearance of impropriety that can cause. Now, what if the gift card is extended to everybody in the city? Like, so for example, city employees will all get a $5 gift card to Starbucks for some reason. If that is the case, then you are absolutely allowed to accept that gift card. It is not generally targeted to your role in the commission or your role in the business that you're conducting. So if it is a gift card that everyone will receive, then you'd be allowed to take that. The ones that don't always look like they're a problem are usually the ones that are a little shady. Those are the ones that we need to be aware of, usually the ones that raise the red flags. So we're talking box seats, right? Ticket sales, season tickets, anything that looks like it could be some type of quid pro quo where someone in the community or a vendor would be getting something from you as a result of the work that you are doing. If you have any questions about that or any concerns about that, probably need to give me a call or call someone in legal to get someone to look at that for you so we can make sure that that is not going to be something that violates our ethics policy. Stay right there, Courtney. I'm going to the next slide for banquet and business lunch. So this is another example of one of those things, one of those gray areas that can be a little confusing. So let's say that there is a banquet, someone's being honored, or a business that you've done, a vendor that you've done business with, or an individual that you've done business with is having a banquet, and the department is invited or the commissioners are invited. In that case, yes, generally a banquet is a celebration and usually a recognition of persons or people that are doing great things. And if that's a general thing, then obviously you are welcome to attend that banquet. The place where you have to be careful is if the banquet is being, someone is being honored for other purposes or someone that you may have an affiliation with. If you have a question about that, it could definitely appear to be suspect. So if you have a question about that, again, just give us a call so that we can kind of run it down, look at all of the parameters that are outlining that banquet situation. A business lunch is a little bit different because if you think about a business lunch, it's usually one person paying for the other, one or two persons involved with the person that is inviting or has been invited to the business lunch. Generally, that would probably be a no because that could appear to give some type of favorable response to that person or some type of favorable return for something that you've already done. So generally a business lunch as described in the traditional sense, where someone is picking up your tab or you're picking up the tab for someone else, is generally frowned upon when it comes to the ethical concerns and considerations. Okay, next slide. When you're talking about another exception to the rule would be a plaque that would be publicly presented in recognition of your public service. That is something that is allowed that does not violate the ethics policy. Next slide. And then another exception is receipt of an honorarium for participation in meetings. Again, that is something that is allowed because that is generally within the ordinary course of the business that you're conducting. However, again, if there's any question or concern about that, please let me know. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide talks a little bit about the acceptance of compensation, gifts, favors, rewards, or gratuities. And in the slide, it says the stress ball is okay, but the leather portfolio over $25 is not. So there is a $25 maximum on any gift that you may receive from anyone. And I like to put this in the context of, like, say, a swag bag. So let's say you go to a conference or you're in attendance and someone or a vendor wants to come by and drop off some pens or notepads, something like that. Those types of things, that's why we say the stress ball. That's okay, because that is just generally the vendor passing out swag, minimal amounts of pieces and minimum value to those pieces that don't generally have much value, but sometimes come to the individual or come to the department or come to the board as a whole. And so in those cases, we don't think that those are violations of the policy. However, if there is anything like this leather portfolio, for example, that is over $25 that is given as a gift, then that is something that would have to be returned or declined, because that would be in violation of the ethics policy. Now, here there is an exception on the slide where it says advertising items or souvenirs of nominal value, where the $25 is presumed to be nominal, then that would be allowed and that would be accepted. Again, you know, one of the things I like to tell people is these things are kind of as case basis. Like every case does not fit the same mold. So there are going to be situations where one time it seems like it's fine and then the next time it may not. Again, if you ever have any questions or concerns about what constitutes a concern under the ethics policy, please let me know and I'd be happy to talk it through. Next slide, please. We're talking about meals or non-solicited discounted meals that don't exceed $25. In those cases, that would generally be okay, where you have no current or anticipated future business relationship to the giver. In those cases, that could probably be fine. Again, if you have any question or concern about that, please run that by us first. Because here's the thing, what we don't want is there to be a perception, especially within the city of Winston, that you're doing anything but the good work that you've been called to do for the board. So what we're trying to do is just prevent you from making a misstep and try to help you, help guide you through this process as you know, things come up and things arise. Next slide. Here's another example of where this is an issue with that you could accept a gift where it's all employees that are receiving the same benefit, where it's publicly acknowledged and it's been approved and it's a discount for all. In those cases, you could certainly accept that. So for example, if you have to be careful that it doesn't turn into the business lunch, right? So if there's a thank you lunch for being so expeditious in resolving an issue for a particular citizen or a particular vendor, that could be concerning, as well as it does. And remember, these don't have to be personal one-on-one direct relationships. There can also be indirect relationships with persons or vendors that could trip you up. Again, if there's some type of relationship that you're concerned about, please give me a call. But in general, these types of overall discounts to meals for Winston-Salem city employees or persons that serve in particular roles are generally okay. Next slide. So the general rule is listed here that says if the circumstances of the gift of any value would lead a reasonable person to conclude that the gift was given with the intent to influence an official action or decision, to affect the performance of a city representative or to expect a reward, then the gift cannot be accepted. So there's a couple of pieces I want to point out to you here in this paragraph. The circumstances of the gift of any value. So I know before we talked about the $25 limitation on gifts that are like minimal in stature. But if it's of any value and it would lead someone to believe that you accepted it for some personal gain or for some gain for someone else that you're indirectly tied to, or it's going to impact a decision that you're going to make, then it doesn't matter the value of the gift. It is not going to be able to be accepted. So I just wanted to point that out. The concern is making sure that there's no untoward behavior going on and that everyone is acting within the scope of their duties and assigned parameters. Next slide, please. So what is the measure? This is generally the measure when we start talking about compensation for what you're doing. And here the slide just talks about an honest day's work or an honest day's pay. And the goal when we start talking about ethics and how we measure that is not to exceed this measurement here. And this is also, if you think about it, the expectation of our citizens and the other employees here with the city. The goal is to make sure that the work that we are doing is that we're honestly being paid for that and that we're not being in any other way compensated by cutting corners or providing favors or accepting gifts in that manner. Next slide. So you see the little finger here. We're just going to reiterate because bottom line, this is the general rule that city representatives should not give or receive any gift, favor, reward, or gratuity. There should again be no quote unquote scratching of backs, right? I scratch your back, you scratch mine for the work that we do. And this slide just kind of brings it all home to help you understand exactly what that rule is. Next slide. Improper use of city property also falls underneath our ethics policy. And it states here that no city representative will use city-owned vehicles, equipment, materials, money, or property for personal or private convenience or profit. This use is restricted to services that are available to the general public. So basically, you cannot use your position or your influence to get additional help or services or any of these other things that are mentioned in the slide. And I'm going to give you a personal example of that. So we had a sewer issue at my home where we had some issue with the sewage backed up into my house and, we had to get it all cleaned out and that kind of thing. I did not call anybody here at the city and say, hey, I am a lowly assistant city attorney. I do all the grunt work, but I would like to use my lowly influence to have someone come and fix my sewer line. That is not allowed, right? And if I had done that, I would have been in trouble and I would have violated the city's ethics policy. And as the ethics officer, I probably would have been in a whole heap of trouble. However, so what I did do is I followed the proper protocols. Did I make a phone call? Yes. I said, hey, what is the proper protocol for me to follow to get this issue examined? And then I act as a regular citizen and I follow those channels and I pay whatever fees I need to pay to the city and do the things that I need to do. So can I call somebody and circumvent my water bill? No, I may not. That is an ethical violation. We have to pay all of our bills and do all of the things that we are required to do as citizens so that we are not taking advantage of our position and our persuasion in the position that we're in. And so, yes, you can maybe call somebody and get advice, get pointed in the right direction, but what you may not do is use your influence on the board or in any staff position to influence how the next steps will go. Okay, next slide. This talks about the confidentiality of information that you guys get. So of course, there's lots of information that comes to you in your position on the board, and on the commission, just by general nature of what you do. And that confidential, privileged, and proprietary information must stay confidential. One of the things that we have started doing is having employees sign confidentiality statements just to ensure another level of protection that protects both the employee and it protects our citizens, because as you know, in many of our departments, citizen information comes in as well. And what we are not allowed to do is use our jobs and these roles to then breach that confidentiality and give anybody any information that could not be obtained in another manner. Our job is to safeguard this information and not share it for gain of any kind, whether it be personal or professional. Okay, next slide, please. So here we have Cousin Bob's Landscaping as being used as an example for this slide. And I think it kind of brings home the indirect possible indirect influence that we can have. City representatives will not influence the city's selection of or conduct the conduct of business with a corporation, person, or firm having or proposing to do business with the city if that representative has a personal relationship and or financial interest in the company. So I'll be honest with you, I think this is probably the issue that gets many people caught up. We have people, you know, when I start thinking of Winston-Salem, it's a friend of mine once said, it's a really, really large town. Even though we're a city, it's a really, really large town. And we have people that have multiple relationships across the city and the state, to be honest with you, where those possible business relationships will come into play with what you have to have done for the city. Brothers-in-law, cousins, sisters, spouses, all of those persons that may have a business or a business relationship may sometimes apply for or bid on contracts with the city. And these bids and these contracts come before the commission. This is where we have to be careful and we have to disclose those relationships when they are existing. Now, there are some limits on your ability as commissioners to remove yourselves from the voting process. That's a statutory concern there. However, if there are concerns about a possible Cousin Bob having a contract with the commission or with utilities in general, I am here to help you navigate those pieces and kind of look at that. There may be an opportunity for you to recuse yourself in some situations from decision-making if those considerations are going to be affecting a person of your family or have an interest that will benefit you directly financially. But these are the ones that I say are the most, generally the most concerning, and generally the ones that are honestly most likely to hit the papers. So in order to avoid that, if you have a question or a concern, or you have something you say, hey, I know this person is going to put a bid in, this is my relationship to that person or that business, I want to disclose that before we go any further, just to be above board. Okay? Okay, next slide.
Camille, can I ask you about that last slide?
Sure.
My understanding may be wrong, so I'm glad that you're here to correct me if so. My thinking was that I need to recuse myself if I have a financial interest in it, but it could just be that if I have a relationship interest. Is that what you're saying?
Right, so the financial interest is definitely probably the most important thing, but the personal relationship is also important because you don't want anyone, so say for example, if I have XYZ water treatment service, right? And you and I know one another personally outside of the city or whatever, even though there may not be any financial interest that comes to you directly, that personal relationship could still raise an eyebrow for certain folks. And they could say, I just feel like it would have probably been better had I known that Mr. Younger and Ms. French knew each other outside of this commission and this board. At the end of the day, you don't want anyone to think that there was any type of undue influence that you used for my XYZ treatment business to be the business chosen by the commission to do its work. So while the personal relationship may not yield you any direct result, right, you still don't want to give the appearance of impropriety in that situation. So in those situations, I would say if you have a concern about that, and even if there's no financial interest, again, just give me a call and I'd be happy to walk you through it. It may not yield anything at all, but it's just better to be proactive than reactive.
Okay, thanks.
So Camille, in that instance, would we give you a call, or would a commission member just recuse himself from a vote?
I would say before you recuse yourself, go ahead and call me, because it may not be a need to do the recusal. Generally, though, if there is the financial interest, for sure, definitely the recusal would probably be the first thing to do. But again, there's some limitations statutorily on kind of how that works. So I just want to make sure to walk you through that part.
The other thing that I heard, Camille, was that we do have a responsibility to vote. So, I mean, I guess it's easy for us to say, well, I'm not sure, so, hey, I won't vote, I'll recuse myself. But I think it is important to take that next step to say, well, this is something that we are called to do. So we want to be a part of that process, because typically, I mean, everybody could say, well, no, it's close to me, so we don't vote. It's important to exercise that thought to say, well, now, it's probably okay, as opposed to just taking the easy route and just saying, yeah, I'm not going to vote.
Yes, sir, you're exactly right. The voting piece is probably the most important piece of what you guys do in terms of assessing and making sure that what the commission is doing is best interest of the city and its citizens. So yes, Mr. Curtis, when you talk about the voting piece, that is something that you're obligated to do statutorily. And so we want to make sure that we're not just arbitrarily removing people from that decision-making piece. So that's why I would say, just give me a call first, so that we can make sure you can continue to serve in the capacity that you've been called to do. Any other questions before we move on? I promise it won't be too much longer. Okay, so I think we had stopped here on the bribe piece. So this is the piece that everyone thinks of, right? When we start talking about ethics and what looks bad, the bribe, right? That's probably the most right in your face piece of an ethics violation. But I am going to state it here so we do cover it. No public officer or employee may solicit or receive any gift, favor, reward, service, or promise of reward, including a promise of future employment, in exchange for recommending, influencing, or attempting to influence the award of a contract by the public agency he or she serves. So again, this is probably the most succinctly stated piece of the quid pro quo, right? That, you know, we do not, even though it may not be cash money, we also don't want the appearance to say, oh, well, I can hook you up with a job later on, or I can give you the promise that even if there's not a job available, there's going to be something opening up in the next 6 months. So, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, I've got my eye out for you, those types of things. Not allowed. That is a direct violation of our ethics policy. And not only can you not receive that, you also cannot solicit that. So we just want to make sure that that was crystal clear. I'm sure, but again, this to me is probably the bribery piece is probably the piece that most people associate with the violation of ethics. Okay, next slide. So here, our statutory authority is housed in our general statutes, section 133-32. And here it goes into a little bit of detail about how the gift might reasonably be perceived, and then the expectations of the giver and the receiver. So when we start talking about how might the gift be reasonably perceived, one of the things we talk about in the law is the reasonable person standard. And when we start talking about the reasonable person, we're talking about just the average everyday citizen, right? So if there is some action that is taken some gift that is given or solicited, how is the regular, ordinary Joe Blow citizen that we see and serve every day going to perceive that gift? Are they going to perceive it as just a minimal, thing where, oh, they just went to a banquet and it's just something that is, a standard gift or a gift to all of the city employees, and that was totally fine? Or is it going to be, that didn't smell right to me. They gave a gift to someone on a commission, and now the commission has turned around and hired that person to do its work. The reasonable person would look at that and say, that doesn't sound or smell too good. And so this is the standard that we should probably use whenever we are concerned about what it's going to look like. It's the public perception, and it's also how it's going to be reasonably perceived. Now, we're not talking about the person that has kind of the thought process where they're going to kind of jump to conclusions that aren't there. We're talking about just a reasonable, regular, everyday person. Also, look at the expectation of the giver and the expectation of the receiver. If the expectation of either is that they are going to give or get something in return for that gift, then that gift is a problem. If they expect a contract, if they expect, just like the last slide said, if they expect a job, if they expect some type of monetary compensation, if they expect you to kind of look the other way while a violation is going on, all of those things would be considered a violation of the ethics policy. So this slide just kind of gives you a broad overview of kind of how that's kind of the baseline of how you approach any ethics concern or consideration. Next slide, please. So what do we do if we have a concern about someone that we're serving with or yourself? You can always report a complaint to myself or our Human Resources Director, Marcus Barnett. I will, definitely get involved and do an investigation. Those complaints, as well as the underlying investigation, is treated confidentially, and we do not allow retaliation for you reporting any possible ethics violation. And the filing of a false complaint in and of itself is a violation of the policy. So just keep in mind, if you think that there's something there and you have a concern, again, it's always great to talk to me first. And if you have a concern there, we can walk through it. But if it looks pretty bad and you think it's a complaint that needs to be investigated, please don't hesitate to do that. After all, that is a part of your charge as the commission to make sure that things run smoothly and above board. Okay, next slide, please. There is also a duty, if you perceive a conflict with the policy, to notify, your supervisor if you're a staff person, but also personnel that are on the commission as well. They will help to resolve the conflict through reassignment or other remedy. And there must be a written report of actions taken. That generally comes from me as the ethics officer. After I do the investigation, I write up a report and that goes out, and any additional action that needs to be taken is coordinated through the director and the city manager's office. Next slide, please. So here are just a couple of helpful internet tools. If you have any additional questions, that first link is a great resource for different information about what ethics looks like in terms of local government and what that entails. And then the next bullet is the canons, Coates Canons from the School of Government at UNC Chapel Hill. And they have a variety of ethics questions and blog type articles where they go into a lot of questions about different resources, different scenarios that come into play when it starts talking about ethics commissions and boards. And then this final slide is just me. If you have any questions, this is my name and my contact information for you. If you don't feel like writing that down, Courtney always knows how to get in touch with me if you have a question or a concern. And that pretty much ends the presentation. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Hi, this is Charles Wilson. I've got a question about, I guess, conflicts or business type relationships that have arisen a couple times for me. So in my non-commission life, I'm a commercial landlord and we have some office buildings, and a couple of times the situations come up where one of our tenants might be bidding on a contract with the city, and we have no direct financial relationship. It's just sort of to the extent that it's to our benefit that our tenants, stay in business. And one of the ways they might do that is by winning these contracts. So just, out of an abundance of not wanting there to be any sort of appearance of impropriety or self-dealing there, I've recused when those kind of things come up. It doesn't sound like, based on, having a direct financial relationship or a personal relationship, it would be necessary. But so maybe you could say whether in those kind of situations, whether recusal is necessary or whether it's just sort of case by case, call and get it sorted out before the meeting.
So thank you for your question. I think I think you took the right move, did the right thing by recusing yourself, if that was your concern. I don't know necessarily that it would have to be that way in every situation, but given that you own the building, is that correct?
The building, and in the situation I'm thinking of, which has come up, they're an office tenant in the building. They lease space from us.
Right. So if you think about it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so there's no relationship where we benefit directly from their winning a contract, but it's just, to the extent that it helps them be able to make their rent payments.
Correct. And that's exactly where I was going. So if they are, in business and doing well, then they are continuing to pay a lease payment to you, which, technically does benefit you as the landlord. Right. Now, does that mean that you are using your influence, though, as a board commissioner to secure and procure those contracts on behalf of that tenant? I do not think that is what you were saying at all. So to me, that would be more of an indirect possible benefit to you. But again, that would be a situation where if you had concern about it, I think we would talk offline and just kind of walk it through. Again, though, I think if you think about let's think about the reasonable person, the reasonable citizen. If that person were to look at the scenario as a whole and say, okay, Mr. Wilson owns this building and XYZ company is a tenant of that building, they have no way really and truly of knowing whether or not you did anything with your position on the commission to award the contract to XYZ. And then, of course, there would be the link between XYZ's rent payment and how that impacts you on the back end. So, I think the more prudent thing would be to recuse yourself. But again, I think it would be a situation where I'd be happy to talk with you in more detail. We kind of look at it and make a decision going from there. And if you want to, give me an example offline later on or reach out and you want to talk through whether or not this needs to be an ongoing thing that you need to do, continuing to recuse yourself, I'd be happy to talk with you about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does Heather have her hand up? Ms. Curry down at the bottom? I don't know if she needs to have her hand up or...
No, I don't, and I don't see my hand up on my screen. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for doing that. That was very informative. I think there's going to be two results of this. One's we're going to have less recusals. I have noticed anybody that thinks there's even a potential perception, they automatically recuse themselves. And the second thing is going to happen, you're going to get phone calls.
And that's totally fine. That keeps me employed. So please call.
Thank you very much.
That keeps me gainfully employed. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it back over to Courtney. I think my time is up. And I thank you all for your time and attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Camille. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll share my screen again and then turn it over to Mike Stover for our water and wastewater updates.
Thank you, Courtney. Good afternoon, commissioners. We'll pause on the slide for a second and I'll ask anybody if they know what this device is that they're seeing.
It's a skimmer.
This is actually a smoke blower that's used in sanitary sewer evaluation studies. It helps us identify defects in our sanitary sewer system. So we blow smoke into the collection system, and anywhere there's a defect, or maybe there's a cross tie to a gutter drain or something like that, smoke will come out and we can quickly identify it. The fire department hates us. Some property owners hate us, but it gives us quick results. Okay, Conveyance Dashboard. So far this calendar year, we've issued 38 water and sewer permits for a value of a little over $12 million. Most of you are probably wondering why that value is so high. And if you recall, last fall, Todd Lewis reevaluated the water and sewer unit cost. That hadn't been done in quite a while. And the water and sewer unit cost almost tripled. So, we haven't issued really any more permits than we have in previous years, but the value has went up significantly. And then you can see the mileage associated with the water and sewer. 6.6 miles of water has been permitted, 8.4 miles of sewer so far this year. Here's the Drought Monitor, kind of status quo from last month. It's shifted a little bit to the west. Forsyth County is still abnormally dry. For the month of July, we received like 4.14 inches of rain, which is slightly below average for the month of July. Average production, the plants went down slightly from this time last year, 40.6 million gallons per day. That's a slight decrease of 1.2%. And then here's the fiscal year to date flow totals. Pretty close to the 5-year average and slightly down from where we were this time last year. Collection system update, there's been no change on this chart from last month. We still have not received the report from June or July, so hopefully we'll get it in the next couple of weeks. Item number 9 on your agenda today is the Year 6 award for the CSIP program. I'm going to go over a couple of slides to show you the progress we've made over the last 5 years, and hope you answer any questions about the item. So we finished up, as you all may recall, 2020, we had a record low year. We matched last year's total, 74 total SSOs. You can see the trend is in a downward direction over the past 5 years. And this red line, blue, the bar chart is total SSOs. The red line is O&M related SSOs. That directly relates to how much we clean. You can see that number has went steadily down every year. Here's a breakdown of the type of SSOs we've been receiving. Over half of those are O&M related. That's the biggest contributor. We have had 15 pipe failures, 2 related to severe natural conditions or, like a heavy flooding condition, 2 I&I related, inflow and infiltration related. And then the other 11 are classified as other. Those would be, any unique situation that don't fall in these other categories, such as a bypass failure or maybe a contractor caused issue. So those are mainly your self-inflicted ones that are painful. We try to avoid those, and we want to get that number down moving forward. This chart shows you the breakdown of the different SSOs we received and how they compare. 12% of these SSOs are hotspots, or they're on pipes that we have a history with. The other 88%, or the overwhelming majority, are on pipes that we haven't seen or touched before. In this next chart, you'll see how much we've cleaned. But if you look at this starting 2017, in red is what we haven't cleaned or what we haven't seen, and blue is what we've cleaned. So our goal through 10 years, early in the program, was to get our entire collection system inspected in a 10-year period. We are on track to do that. We are slightly above over half through 5 years, so we can meet our goal easily. So that last 49.8% of pipes that we haven't seen make up 88% of your SSOs that we've been receiving. And then this is, a big contributor to the CSIP program is the capital projects and rehab component. A lot of the funding included in this program is capital delivery, construction, administration, delivery services. And this just shows you the breakdown of projects that we've had over the county. In that top left corner, it says 700 capital projects been completed through the CSIP for a total of $21.8 million. They define a project a little differently than what you probably understand. A project for them, is a pipe segment or manhole to manhole. We think of a project as, an area or a contract. So we've done a lot. You can see it's spread pretty evenly across the county. There's a big cluster to your right over in Kernersville that represents the Kernersville Rehab project. And then we've had down in the lower left, Tanglewood, there's been a couple Tanglewood force main repairs where we've used their services very quickly to reduce the volume of an SSO. And then here's your normal CSIP slides. FY22 cumulative sanitary sewer overflows per 100 miles. This is our first month. We've done really well. We only had 4 SSOs, so we are on track to finish with another record year. We have a long way to go, but so far we're actually below where we were in 2020 and right where we were in 2021. SSOs by cause. For July, we had 4 total SSOs, and all of those were O&M related or fall roots and debris related. I believe this is the last graph for me. This is cleaning productivity. Last month, the commission awarded a contract for sewer cleaning to Taplin Group. We're executing those contracts as we speak. That explains the gap we need to close early on in this fiscal year. So that contractor should be starting in the next 30 days and close that gap quite quickly. Any questions for me?
Okay.
So Mike, just a comment that's I've been around for the CSIP for a long time, and so that's really great progress. And it's nice to see the 10-year plan and that we've touched 50% of the thousands of miles of pipe that we have buried in this community. So that's a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, Jan, I'll turn it over to you for the solid waste update.
Surely. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate that. We're going to start with a couple of slides that give us a quick review of last year's financial results. In FY21, these are expenditures in the first slide. In FY21, we spent $7.84 million. So we were a little bit below last year as of the closing date of this slide, and below the budget, which is about $9.6 million. I think we still have to book the closure accruals from the operating income, so that may go up a little bit before the audited results are available, but still we ended up making up some of the ground that we had lost earlier in the year when our expenses were tracking higher than last year. On the revenue side, we also made up some ground. We ended up at $12.1 million compared to a budget of $11.98. So we were a little bit ahead of the budget on the revenue side and still below last year's numbers, which you see in the red bar there. So moving on to the current fiscal year, FY22, we only have one data point for the month of July. We took in 29,381 tons, so it was a strong month for us. We were boosted. You can see that it was well above where you would expect to be in the month of July based on the way we budgeted with the seasonal variation built in. We were boosted a little bit by construction that's ongoing downtown. Forsyth County has some projects going on down there that affected our results in July. We also began the year with a strong start at the construction and demolition landfill. We took in 4,378 tons at that facility in July. So unless you have questions about the tonnage or those financial results, I'll move on to some of the agenda items. There's 4 on your agenda this month that relate to the solid waste programs. The first 2, number 4 and 5, are related to real estate transactions or potential real estate transactions near Old Salisbury Road landfill. Number 4 is requesting approval for the potential purchase of 2 parcels. They total 32 acres. They're outlined in orange in this slide, and they're immediately adjacent to the working active face of Old Salisbury. We have struck a tentative agreement with the owners to acquire them for $230,000. The asking price was $249,000. And there's some other details described in the item, but the closing would be subject to a 90-day due diligence period during which we would conduct environmental investigations, do a title search, and other research that we might need to do. So that's number 4. And then number 5 relates to something we've talked about for a couple of months now, the potential sale of 1.1 acres adjacent to the entrance to Old Salisbury. And that's the cross-hatched area on this slide. So we've had several discussions about that. And I believe we have Mr. Bobby Patterson, the architect, who has more details on that project if you did have other questions on that one. Anybody have anything they would like to ask on those? If not, I think that's all the slides that relate to solid waste, and the other 2 items we would address during the normal agenda review.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Mike Quavista will give some financial updates on the water and sewer side.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. Good afternoon, Chairman Tuttle and Commission members. We'll start by taking a look at the final overall water and sewer operating expenditures for FY21, represented by the blue bar, which ended up at $47.5 million. It was very similar to FY20 and under the budget. On the revenue side, we ended the fiscal year at $118.2 million, which was $2.9 million higher than FY20 and also above the budget of $111 million. This slide shows our past due balances increasing slightly in July to $3.6 million. As Courtney mentioned earlier, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program application help is continuing at the Forsyth County Department of Social Services, and we're working with the city's marketing department to identify additional ways to inform our customers of the opportunities for assistance, because there is still a significant amount of money out there for them. And then the next slide just shows the accounts kind of mirroring the balances. And so we'll continue to monitor this situation over the next couple of months to gauge the effectiveness of our outreach efforts and keep trying to hit the right methods to get our customers engaged there.
Okay, before we jump into the agenda items, are there any questions about any of our updates or the slides that you've seen so far?
Courtney, Harold, Dave, have we ever pulled any meters for late payments yet?
Mike, do you want to answer that?
Have we pulled? We have locked off some meters. We have been doing some of those for the, I would say the most egregious customers who have the longest and largest past due balances, Mr. Day.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Anything else? Okay. Mike, I'll let you keep going.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Item number two is the one operations item. It's consideration of a resolution authorizing execution of a sewer conveyance agreement with Wake Forest University. Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities currently owns and maintains a portion of the sanitary sewer system located on Wake Forest University's main campus that Wake Forest would like to acquire, and Wake Forest has requested to enter into an agreement with the Commission to convey this sanitary sewer system to the university. Upon execution of the agreement, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities will have no further responsibility for the inspection, operation, maintenance, repair, and or replacement of this sanitary sewer system. Wake Forest University will take on said responsibility, and staff recommends approval.
Mike, it's Chris Parker. I'm a little unclear. Why does Wake Forest want to do this?
So let me answer that question. And Todd Lewis has been working with them directly as well. So the benefit, the water on the campus is already private, if I'm not mistaken. It's master metered. And so to get the water and the sewer, they have staff, that can manage and operate these systems. And basically it's so that they can continue to grow and make any changes to the system that they need to without having to come through us for every single change that they need to make. So if they need to put in a new building, they can go through the process of permitting or relocating the sewer that would meet their needs. Todd, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I think that pretty much covers the main reasoning. As far as development of the campus, it does remove some of the restrictions as far as access requirements that we would have to maintain the system. There have been cases where they have put stuff in that's created issues with improvements, and they don't want to have complications with it being part of our system.
Todd, this is Tom Griffin. Question for you. We've got flow coming off Polo Road going down through the campus. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's approximately about 10 or 11 homes served off the Polo section.
What happens if the university decides that they want to relocate things on campus? I assume that in this agreement and transferring this, there's some language in there that requires that it always be maintained as a functioning system so that those people are protected. Is that true?
That's correct. And in the action request form, the second to last paragraph covers some of those concerns as far as if, let's say, they have a blockage on the upstream side of what would become their system. We have the rights to get in there to remove the blockage if it's causing an overflow that we could get penalized for. They do have to maintain service for this upstream portion. All this is a little abnormal, having a public section to private, back to public. I did talk with the state as far as the permitting, and this has been done on several occasions.
Okay.
So there is precedence for it. Someone else has done this with us?
Actually, Duke University has had a similar situation. I spoke with the attorney out there, and they have the same type of setup.
Do we have any other institutions in Winston-Salem in our service area that we've done this with, or is this a first?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, this is, Wakes is probably the first, probably won't be the last. We do have public and private lines on Winston-Salem State campus that we're working with their administrators on to try to sort that out. And the goal would be to have a similar setup with Winston-Salem State that we have with Wake Forest.
With the lay of the land, and Tom probably knows this off the top of his head, but is there any chance that the higher elevations feeding this that will remain ours will ever need to be expanded so that a larger pipe will need to go through the campus?
No, if you look at the drainage basin, just north on Long Drive, everything begins to shed that direction. So the basin itself will only serve roughly up to where Polo Road is. And I believe Wake Forest has some plans in the future to expand their property and campus. And eventually it will absorb that section that's going to be served.
Wake would probably like to own it all.
Yeah.
This is Chris Parker again. So in circumstances like this, how do we handle the billing? Because I assume we're still treating this wastewater.
Yeah, so it's billed based off their master water meter.
Okay.
So their sewer's billed based on their water consumption.
But even though they're maintaining all this pipe now, do we give them any type of dispensation because of that?
No, because we're still treating it. They're still, in essence, using our collection system at some point to get it to the plant. So there is still collection system cost and treatment cost.
Right. Yeah, but we're no longer having to maintain that pipe. So.
Right.
But that was their choice. Okay.
Right.
This is Hugh Jernigan. I just want to make clear that, so if you have an SSO on the campus there, if it's caused by Wake Forest, they're fully responsible for that, right?
That is correct.
Correct.
Good.
Do they stand to the state for what needs to be corrected and penalties?
Yes, they'll have. Go ahead. Sarah. No, you go ahead.
At that point, they are the owner and responsible for maintenance and any reporting guidelines for that collection system. So they would have to have a operator responsible charge for that collection system. They'd have to report any SSO during the same time frames. We would not be responsible for any of that unless it occurred on the public section, either on Polo Road or downstream.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
Is there any downside to this for us?
That's what I was going to ask, right?
No, I can't. I don't think there is. And you know, if we've vetted this, we've actually been working with Wake Forest on this for a couple of years now. So we've thought through all the different possibilities, and we wouldn't bring it to you for a recommendation if we thought there would be some issue.
Is there any kind of cancellation in there if one of the parties does not perform correctly? In other words, let's suppose they stopped sewage from flowing and left us stranded with our customers up on Polo Road. Is there anything that in our favor that lets us fight that or somehow combat?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's language in there that if they basically do anything that causes no flow on our end or stop service, we can go in there and take action to get it flowing again and then bill Wake Forest directly.
That's correct. Yeah, in the agreement, it actually does spell out the actual cost of any inspection, operation, maintenance, repair, rehab. In the event that they fail to act, that we can get in there and do it and charge them for those repairs. And here it says, the language says, any blockage or break that's not addressed within 24 hours, we can get in there and do what we have to.
Any further questions on item 2? If not, we will move on to finance items with item number 3. Which is consideration of a resolution requesting that the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem authorize a land lease with Glenda M. Kornatzer. In 1992, property was acquired from Jerry W. Kornatzer related to the construction of the Swan Water Treatment Plant. A lease was executed with Mr. Kornatzer, which allowed him to lease back a portion of the excess farmland which was purchased from him. Mr. Kornatzer has recently passed away, and his widow has requested that she be allowed to continue the lease under the same terms and conditions. Since the property is held in the city's name, the city council must authorize the lease. It is proposed that a lease for agricultural purposes be executed with Glenda M. Kornatzer for 10 years at $280 per year for approximately 14 acres of farmland along the Yadkin River in Yadkin County. Staff recommends approval. Okay, Jan has already talked about items 4 and 5. Are there any additional questions about those items at this time?
Mike, it's Tom. I've got I guess a legal question. On the one where we're talking about selling that piece of land, is it something going to be in, I guess I'm looking more to the title of the property that runs with the property always and forevermore, defining what these terms are and the fact that there's an entrance to the landfill next door to this property. I'm just concerned that somebody down the road is going to be in this piece of property and all of a sudden they wake up and realize they got 300 trucks a day going in and out, creating dust and whatever else they want to complain about. I'm not sure we want to hear that at that point.
Yes, and Mr. Griffin and Jan, I think, were you and Jerry working on that agreement? You might clarify some of the information.
I'll be happy to address that. The purchase contract states, and essentially the property will be conveyed to the buyer, assuming the sale gets approved. It's going to be conveyed to the buyer subject to a reservation by the city of an easement, and that easement itself will have upon it or tied to it a reservation for all present and future odor, noise, visual, and other proximity effects of the landfill. And that'll be tied to all either future successors or assigns of the city. So that will go on perpetually, and folks will be on notice that that there is a landfill next door.
Jerry, is the word landfill in that document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you don't mind, it's just a short sentence, and I'll just read it to you just for everyone's benefit. It says, the property shall be conveyed to the buyer subject to a reservation unto the city and its successors and assigns of an easement in, over, and upon the property for all present and future noise, odor, and visual and proximity effects, if any, resulting from the construction or operation of the old Salisbury Road landfill as permitted by the state of North Carolina. So it will put folks on notice of it for sure.
Okay.
So on item 2, I think Dwayne and Wesley asked sort of what's our downside. So I guess I maybe Courtney or Jan, explain why we're wanting to do this. To me, when I hear that agreement, I mean, we don't need $150,000 or whatever. Forgive me if that's not exactly. So what's our plan? Why are we, I fully get buying other buffer. Why are we selling? I think we just need to be clear. Why are we selling the land immediately? Not a few feet away, immediately adjacent to where trucks pass every day. I think I want to make sure everyone's clear as to that purpose, because I'm not personally.
Jan, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
I think the biggest benefit to the sale is that the $150,000 in revenue from that sale would offset a large portion of the acquisition of the other 2 parcels. which are immediately adjacent and provide additional buffering to the neighboring residential uses.
And I'll add to that, Jane, didn't we, so two thoughts. The sale of this property is not necessarily right next to the working phase of our operation. So you have to come in the entrance. So we feel confident that if we sell this portion of that lot, that we can retain or actually maybe enhance the existing buffer that we have now. And it won't
Hold
be.
on, let me stop there. How does selling adjacent to the driveway enhance our buffer?
Well, and maybe enhance is the wrong word, but basically it's not there'll be trees planted. Right now it's just kind of it's existing. And Jan, maybe you can help. I mean, there's buffer there, but we could potentially make it a thicker or more, aesthetic buffer than it is currently. So not in width, but maybe in what the plantings that we go back with.
So sorry to be a pain here, but we could do that without selling it.
Well, that is correct. That is correct. Okay. And then the other thought that I have is that we have talked to, and I can't remember, Jan, who's the traffic. I know, Mr. Tuttle, that was one of your concerns was the traffic. They are not going to allow, I can't remember if it's DOT. What did we find out about the turn-ins and everything?
Right. Yeah, I was going to mention that. I mean, it's not a reason to sell, but this has become a reason not to keep it necessarily. The entrance that is proposed by the new project is relatively close to our entrance. And initially we did have some concerns that there could be traffic conflicts with our left turn lane turning into our facility. But that concern has been allayed, I guess I'll say, by Mr. Patterson's staff that talked to DOT about the driveway permits. Apparently their traffic incoming to their new project would have a right turn only into that parking lot. So it would not interfere with our left turn in to our facility.
Okay, so I'm obviously I don't get to vote, but I'll make one more comment and I'll be quiet, I promise. I am very confident that if we didn't own this piece of property and it came for sale, we would be eagerly wanting to buy it for buffer reasons. So to me, my concern is the reverse of that. Now that we own it, I don't understand why we're wanting to sell it. To me, this piece is a lot more attractive. I'm very supportive of agenda item number 4, but this piece is a lot more attractive than those tracks in agenda item 4 because we have a driveway running adjacent to this property. But like I said, I'll be quiet now and ask anybody else has any concerns, or we can go on to agenda item 6. Thank you.
So if there aren't any other questions, let me just, for clarification's sake, item 4 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the acquisition of 2 vacant lots adjoining the old Salisbury Road landfill. And item 5 is consideration of a resolution requesting that the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem authorize the sale of a portion of a lot located at 3336 Old Salisbury Road. With that, I'll read another item title, which is item number 6. That's consideration of a resolution awarding a contract for the landfill maintenance building renovation project. Renovations are needed at this facility, which was originally built in the mid-90s. The project will add 714 square feet for 3 offices and also add a new maintenance bay. Central Builders, Inc. of Mebane was the low bidder at $1,143,870. The architect's estimate for the project was $1,039,195. Central Builders agreed to subcontract goals other than those established for this project, and the city's internal MWBE committee met to consider the bidder's good faith efforts. After reviewing the documentation submitted by the bidder, the committee determined that the bidder did make a good faith effort to achieve the goals. Staff recommends approval of a contract for the project in the amount of $1,433,870. Item 7 is consideration of a resolution awarding a purchase order for an articulated dump truck. The current 2006 dump truck, which is used to haul soil for cover at the old Salisbury Road landfill, is budgeted for replacement this year. The new truck will be purchased through a cooperative purchasing group, the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, for a total price of $369,612, which does include $36,000 for a trade-in of the current truck. Staff recommends approval.
Mike, this is Chris Parker. I do have a question about the financing through the North Carolina Municipal Leasing Corporation. How do we stand on, looking forward at getting that interest rate lowered? Where do we stand in that process?
My understanding is that that is under review by the finance department during this fiscal year to hopefully maybe have a change for the next fiscal year.
So I probably will keep asking this question unless you kind of tell me a tentative date on when we might be getting that information.
And I'll add to Mr. Parker that I have spoke to Lisa about this. She's not on the call today, but I have had a conversation with her, and that is on her work plan to ultimately, investigate and look at the interest rate, and it would be a revised interest rate. Don't know what that is, but it will be something. And my understanding would be, the same across all city departments, a way that they can finance vehicles, but also recover the cost that they need to purchase vehicle replacement. So I know that's on her work plan, and that's going to happen this fiscal year. So before June 30th of next year, and I'm assuming it'll be something that we'll know about before our budget process next March.
Okay, thank you.
This is Harold. I got a question. Do we ever go outside and privately try to buy these pieces of equipment on the open market for price?
I wish Lisa was on here, and I don't know, Kelly Latham's on the call, but I know she's relatively.
The reason I asked is those two pieces of cats we bought 4 or 5 months back, we bought the same pieces a whole lot less money than what we paid for them on the utilities. And that's the reason I said, do we ever have anybody on staff just to call up and say, what's this piece of, if I want to buy it, cost?
I'm not sure if Jerry is on the call right now, but I do know that generally we're looking to buy things, in a group. We get a better discount that way as far as just going out individually. But I do see Jerry is available, so he might be able to add more to my statement.
Yeah, the city has good afternoon. The city definitely has a business practice of attempting to get competitive bids on equipment, particularly in those areas such as small trucks, medium duty trucks, and so forth, and automobiles. Because what our focus tends to be, or the city's business practices, that we look for possible distributors or dealerships here within our city or county in those areas where it's quite clear that we don't have a lot of no competitive presence here locally, and distributors are either located in the Greensboro, Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte areas. Traditionally, we do find that this Sheriff's Association that we're trying to purchase these items from, they've been extremely competitive over the last 2 to 3 years. And I guess I'll say it this way, through the manager's office, who is very well aware of this program and this business practice, has given us the okay to strongly consider moving forward with the one bid available from the Sheriff's Association, the group purchasing. Understand too that these are competitively bid programs. They're not just out where this particular firm is hand picking who they want. They do a competitive bidding situation, and in essence, they're doing our job for us, and then we get the benefit of that. Is that a help?
Yeah, that helps. I mean, I'm always a wheeler dealer. I'm not going to take the first price. So that's my comment.
Well, and we definitely try to get the best price possible that we can as well. So I understand that. Thank you, Kelly and Jerry.
Okay, moving on to item 8, which is consideration of a resolution awarding purchase orders for wastewater treatment chemicals. Bids were received July 28th for anti-scalin and sodium bisulfite for the Archie Ellis and Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plants, with Brentag Mid-South Inc., the low bidder for anti-scalin at $14,900, and Southern Ionics Inc., the low bidder for sodium bisulfite at $132,200. Based on bid prices, staff anticipates an additional $25,500 expense in chemical costs for the FY22 budget term, assuming similar usage patterns. Terms of the bid allow the commission the option to extend the contract for as many as 2 additional 12-month terms, making the total potential award $44,700 to Brentag Mid-South Inc. for anti-scalin and $369,600 to Southern Ionics for sodium bisulfite. Staff recommends approval. Item 9 is,
I'm sorry, Mike, obviously we're seeing some increased costs across all aspects of what we do, and that's not unusual to anyone. I'm sure everyone everywhere is seeing increased costs. So we're just going to continue to monitor things like this and track our expenditures throughout the year. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. Item 9 is consideration of a resolution approving an engineering agreement with HDR Engineering, Inc. of the Carolinas for year 6 of the Collection System Improvement Program. Earlier in the meeting, Mike Stover provided an exceptionally awesome recap of the first 5 years of the CSIP. This item is for year 6, which provides continued support for the program. Staff negotiated a scope and fee of $5,817,601 for the year 6 work and recommends approval. Moving on to item 10, which is consideration of a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding supporting a regional management group for water supply planning in the Yanked and PD River Basin. On July 11, 2016, the Commission approved a resolution authorizing the execution of a 5-year Memorandum of Understanding with 18 other municipalities and reservoir operators, which became known as the Yanked and PD Water Management Group. The goal of the group is to collaboratively define the basin's role in providing a long-term, sustainable, and secure regional water supply for the Yanked and PD region of North Carolina, and to operate under the principles of regional collaboration, sustainable water supply, environmental stewardship, mutual and collective benefit, shared responsibility, equal representation, and financial stability. The existing Memorandum of Understanding expired on June 30th, 2021, and the Yanked and PD Water Management Group members have collectively agreed to extend the existing Memorandum of Understanding for an additional 5 years while the group pursues a tax-exempt status as a nonprofit organization. Staff recommends approval of an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding to continue participation in the Yanked and PD Water Management Group and ensure the preservation and sustainability of this valuable resource. Staff also recommends approval authorizing the City of Winston-Salem as the administrative agency for the group. Any questions on item 10?
This is Wesley Curtis. I don't have any issues with this, but are they meeting quarterly or monthly or bi-monthly? Do we get updates as to what's going on, or are we going to as to what's going on?
Yes, so Bill Brewer regularly attends these meetings, and he's actually served as a chair. I believe it was last year. He's rolled off since, but he's pretty active in this organization, and I think they meet every other month. Okay. But we can definitely bring you an update, a bigger update to the commission. I think that's a good idea.
Sure.
Okay, that was the last of the agenda items for today. And if there are no further questions, I'll turn it back over to Chairman Tuttle.
Okay, thanks. Courtney, can we stop sharing screen for now, please?
Yeah.
Okay, as we head toward considering our agenda items, are there any commission members that have any conflicts or need ethics recusals?
I don't have any. I don't have any conflicts. Go ahead and make whatever point you're going to make. I'll just make a comment.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Al.
I have a question. And this isn't about any individual agenda item, but I noticed on a couple of the agenda items that there were no MWBEs who responded to the request to participate in a couple projects. And I know that has often been the comment for the last few months. And more, it seems like that's the comment more than hearing that they participate. So I wonder if there's anything that we should consider doing differently to make sure that MWBEs know of the opportunities to participate in different projects.
Jakira, I see that you turned on your screen,
Yes.
so I'm going to let you take that one.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chairman Tuttle and members of the commission. So Commissioner Younger, to answer your question, it's not that MWBEs are not responding, it's just that their quotes are higher. So for your project, there were several MWBEs who responded to the bid, to the general contractor, but their quotes just weren't low. So there were non-MWBE quotes that were selected to perform the particular areas of the work because they had a lower quote.
Okay, thanks. I must have misread the comments.
Yeah, so, and that's why you see a 0% MBE there. It's because the bidders in which submitted for the same areas that the MWBEs did, they just beat them out with prices. So
Like,
they weren't.
I'm looking at number 6, item number 6. It says no minority or women-owned business submitted a bid. And then I think it was also item number 8 said something almost similar to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of how the particular wording is, but just for clarification to your, I guess, concern, that 0% represents that there were no subcontracts awarded, but that's due to the fact that non-MWBEs submitted lower quotes and those firms were selected to perform those particular trades. So there was M's and W's who did submit, but they just didn't have low quotes. And
Jerry, can you address his comment? Can you address Mr. Younger's question about the MWBE comment in the item?
Right. When you allude to the item number 6, the intent of that statement there is that no prime general contractor submitted a bid for this work. It doesn't mean that, because the HUB program is a subcontracting program. So in this particular case, there was no minority or women-owned business that offered an opportunity or offered a bid as the prime contractor. Your other question was related, I believe, to the, does that answer potentially? And then additionally, in our comments there, we do notify all local, all the local MWBEs on a weekly basis. They're sent a list of all the open bids and so forth. So they're communicated to on a weekly basis. And lastly, in addition, we advertise, when we advertise our projects, we traditionally advertise on the state's HUB website as well. So they get notifications through the HUB site, through Jakira's team, advertising or sending them information on is it weekly or every other week?
It's weekly.
It's weekly basis. So they're certainly notified of the opportunities. And then the last thing, I'm not sure, did you reference item number 8? That was the same scenario there, is that we're not aware of any chemical distributors or manufacturers that are MWBEs. And in this case, we do the same thing. We advertise to reach out to make it visible to potential bidders, but no MWBE responded.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney, when do we have scheduled to talk about equity thoughts back with the commission? Is it a couple of months?
Are you referring to our DEI initiative?
Yeah, yes.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think the results of, I guess maybe an end-of-year wrap-up was going to be next year in June, but I will update the commission right now that we have selected a consultant to help us with the DEI initiative. an action plan. And I actually met with the team last week, and it's Dr. William Lewis with Wheelhouse Global, and we're really excited to get started on that. So once we figure out kind of the next steps, there could be potentially an item that will need to come to the commission for approval because of the dollar amount. So you'll get an update then. If it ends up working out, which I don't believe it will, that it's, you know, under the threshold where the commission doesn't need to approve it, I would still bring an update to the commission once we agree on a scope and fee and the process going forward with this consultant. So.
And Alan, one of the things, Alan and others, one of the things that, you know, strikes my mind is what can we do more proactive than we're doing now to encourage a broader vendor base? You know, so I think that would be part of the DEI effort. It could be part of the DEI effort. It depends on what the action plan is. It's you know, Courtney and I've had a lot of thoughts that this is not just an HR internal. This is looking DEI lens across all aspects of our operation. And so I'm excited, and Dr. Lewis will be great. I wasn't aware Courtney he had one, so he'll be great. Okay, any other questions before we start considering agenda items? And are there any of the agenda items 1 through 10 that commissions would like to pull from a consent agenda?
I'd like to move approval.
I'd like to pull item 5.
I'm sorry, Dwayne, is that you?
I'd like to pull item 5, the sale of the property on Salisbury's or for the landfill.
Okay.
I'd like to have a separate vote on it, please.
Any other items? Hearing that, I would entertain a motion for the approval of agenda items 1 through 4 and 6 through 10.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Parker, second from Mr. Day. Patrice, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Okay. So the motion was for Mr. Parker and the second was for Mr. Curtis. Is that what we said?
Mr. Day.
I'm sorry. Thank you. And so Commissioner, Vice Chairman Curtis?
Yes.
Commissioner Howday?
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin?
Sorry, yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Parker. I have Commissioner Charles Wilson
Yes.
and Commissioner Younger.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That motion passes. Thank you all. Mr. Long, agenda item 5, any comments or anything you want to lead off discussion?
Well, the thing that struck me is when you said if this were reversed, this would be what we would be buying to make a better buffer. And that's accurate, okay? That to give this up, I'm not sure there's anything in it for us really.
Yeah, and yeah, Dwayne, I mean, I guess, you know, Bobby's like I was saying at the very beginning, I know when I first came on the commission, our biggest task was dealing with people that had issues all around there. And despite what you've said in the past, what they've agreed to in the past, you always get hands raised saying, hey, there's a problem. There's a problem. And I know, but you said it was okay. Well, I've changed my. So I think that we've always been in the business of trying to get more land to try to help alleviate the problem. So I guess I was really at the very beginning kind of hesitant at realizing the development is very important and we want to encourage that. But I think in this case, with this situation, it's very difficult to kind of give up that land that we're always trying to get, I guess, as I look at it. So
I've got a comment too. In my personal life, I've always wanted to buy the land that joined me. I've never sold any, and I don't think we should sell this. That's my comment.
Other comments or questions?
I address the buffering issue, if I may.
Sure, Mr. Patterson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand the concern about the visual element from Old Salisbury Road into the property, into your construction landfill. I hope we've demonstrated that with the building going here, we actually will be increasing that buffer and making it much more dense. We'll have a building there where right now what's being relied upon is vegetation. I think we've also offered the potential of an opaque fence, both along the back and on the driveway side. And we've also offered a much more dense vegetation to be planted where you don't have it now. So I think in terms of actually seeing into the landfill and that being an issue, this building will actually make that easier, and it'll be much more dense. You won't be able to see in terms of can't see through a building. You may be able to see through trees and vegetation at some point. I understand the issue about your driveway enhancement or impact on your driveway. We've demonstrated that is not, NCDOT has told us that's not going to be the case. I certainly understand how you might feel about giving up property. I think in this case, we've demonstrated that giving it up will actually make the buffer more dense and harder to see through than what you have now.
Thank you. Other commission member thoughts? Does anyone care to make a motion for approval of agenda item 5?
Call for a vote.
I'm sorry, Mr. Day?
Let's call for a vote.
I've asked for a motion. If no one will make a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for approval. Sale. So
A motion by Mr. Jernigan. Is there a second? Going once for a second. I am not hearing a second. So, Courtney, this rarely happens, so give me some advice as to.
Yeah, Damon.
I'm sure Jerry will jump in a moment, but good afternoon, Chairman, members of the commission. So if the item fails to get a second, then the item that's the end of the item. Mm-hmm. So no action taken, and you're done with that item.
Damon's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I'm looking at my agenda. I think we are complete with the agenda items. Courtney, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just real quick, we've got a couple of CIP slides to update you on, so I'll share my screen again, and we'll just wrap up with that. Okay, Shang, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, Courtney. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all having a good afternoon. Sorry, I said good afternoon twice. Anyways, so the first project I'll be going over is our Kernersville sewer rehab project. The amounts spent to date is approximately 1.2 million. The notice to proceed for this project was August 31st of last year. So far, we've completed 60 out of 125 projects to date. So here you can see the boundary map is the black on the outside. Everything in green is what we've completed. The yellow is upcoming work that we'll be working on. And the red is what we have left to do. Water main improvement. The notice to proceed for this project was December of last year. So far, we've completed 4 out of 19 project sites. So here you can see we've completed the Green and Winston-Salem and in Lewisville. And what we'll be working on is a lot in Kernersville and a little bit left Clemens, Lewisville area. System-wide sewer rehab phase 3. We just started with this project. Notice to proceed was July 19th. So far, we're still working on Arbor Road. And this is the boundary map for it. All the little stars are the project sites. And the yellow star, the green and the yellow is I believe, where Arbor Road is. North Mill Creek. So we are hoping to complete this project November 22nd of this year. The 42-inch line has been about 50% complete. The 36-inch line is about 56%. I'm sorry. Was there a question? No.
I don't think so.
Okay. The work that they've done recently is restoring the Greenway around the Renolda Midkiff Road area. And here is the progress map. You can see that we've done a lot more green now up top, and then the lower side around Linda Circle and Edith Avenue. And here is a picture of the Greenway being restored, the Midkiff and Renolda Road area. Good. Any questions for me? Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tuttle, I'll turn it back over to you. That concludes what we have for you today.
Okay, thanks. Any members of the commission like to bring anything before the commission?
I've got a miscellaneous item I thought I would bring up here at the end briefly.
Yes, sir. And then Mr. Day, you're on mute. So Mr. Wilson first, then Mr. Day.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is just as a citizen and a customer. I know usually this part is kind of reserved for praise for things, but there's something that I'm kind of frustrated with as a customer. My most recent water bill at my house was preposterously high. So I went through the CityLink process of scheduling an investigation and all that. And that's going on 2 weeks now. And I've gotten no communication from the city about when someone's coming by. And I haven't heard anything about it. So I'm not saying that whatever the standard procedure is should be altered in this case, but that if this is the standard procedure, it seems like it could stand some improvement.
So thank you, Mr. Wilson, for bringing that to my attention, and absolutely not. That's not standard procedure. So let me investigate what's going on, and I can get with you after this to figure out get your address and everything, all the information that I need.
Yeah, and there's, I'm guessing it's a broken meter, because if it's not, then like the whole neighborhood would be underwater. So,
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I definitely will follow up with you to try to get that resolved.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Charles. Other commission members?
Yeah, my question is, according to a couple of weeks ago, one of the guys got back to me about Old Salem bypass being closed so long. And they say we're holding up, waiting on Piedmont Natural Gas so we can open the road back up. Have we got any push to get them through so we can open that road back up?
I'm looking to Mike Stover. I don't know if you are familiar with this project and have anything to add on that, Mike.
Hey, Mr. Day, I was actually the one who called left your voicemail. Right. I talked to Jeff Vansler. He's the project manager for DOT. And from what I understand, they were going to open that road back up that week. And then, because it was going to take P&G a couple of weeks to get their materials and get their plan in order. And they were going to close it.
It's still closed today.
Okay. I'll follow up with him and give you a call tomorrow.
Well, the people have been grinding the old pavement, getting ready to do asphalt. And I don't know when they're going to get the bypass open. And everybody's having a detour around, and it's been months.
Right.
I don't know why they call me, but they do.
Let me check and I'll follow up with you separately.
Thank you a lot.
Other questions? Well, I would thank you all. Thanks, staff, for a wonderful meeting. Thank you for the commission members for your time and service to this great organization. Mr. Day.
Yes, it's time to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion and second by Mr. Long. Patrice, yeah, they don't want to hear my monotone voice calling roll. So your smiling face can call the roll.
Okay, flattery will get you everywhere. Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman Curtis?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Day, we have
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines, Commissioner Hines? Yes. Okay. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Younger.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Hope you have a wonderful week. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.